One of the greatest principles comes from Franklin Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and that is to begin with the end in mind. It's kind of like a puzzle. When you have an idea of the big picture, it's a lot easier to see how the little pieces come together. So that's what we're going to do, but instead of taking steps toward a big thing we want to do, we're going to start with the big thing, the goal, and work our way back to the next 72 hours. So we're going to move forward and actually start putting a plan in place. By this point, we know our vision, we know our mission, we know our whys. So here's where we're going to go next. We're going to set our number 1 goal for this year. Now, I already realized that how we laid out vision a little earlier can get a little bit confusing next to this. So let's explain the two. In the last module, you set your vision for the next year, which is where you want to be 365 days from now. Usually writing it as an I will statement is helpful to make the difference here. So I will be a published author. That's your vision. But we need to set a goal, and that's a little bit different. It's the thing or one thing that will actually help you establish the vision. So in that case, if your vision is to be a published author, your first goal is to write the book. Regardless of what your goals are, there are a few parameters we're going to follow in this exercise. They're going to be 1 year out. It's going to be directly related to your vision and mission, and it's going to have a why, and it's going to be smart. But what if your vision for the next year is different from your goal for the year? Let's say that you want to start a business, but what you want to accomplish as a goal is to learn how to run an ultramarathon. That's fine. There are no hard, fast rules for goal setting. Frankly, the why is more important to this than any of those suggestions. But ideally, what we want, at least as our first planned goal, is something that relates to our larger legacy goals, the things that we want to accomplish in 5 to 10 years. Because guess what? If we don't use year 1 to get closer to year 10, how will we even make it to year 2? So for now, choose a number 1 goal that takes you that much closer to your legacy. Again, you can have multiple goals throughout the year, but your number 1 goal is something toward what you want to have in 10 to 15 years. Once you have that initial goal for the year, we're going to start breaking it down. So we're going to take that 1 year goal, we're going to break it into milestones. Then we're going to take those milestones, we're going to break them into 13-week goals. And then we're going to take those 13 weeks and break them into tasks. And then we're going to take those tasks and figure out what we're going to do to move us forward in the next 3 days. But let's back up a second. Those milestones, those are markers along the path to tell you how far that you've gotten. There are markers along the way that help you say, oh, in terms of the larger goal, the larger plan, this is where I am. So for our example of writing a book, let's say that we're going to set a few milestones. In the next 3 months, I'm going to have a drafted skeleton of the book, and I'm going to know what chapters I want to include, and I'm going to have notes for each chapter. So milestone 1 becomes having the book structure and chapters list. Maybe milestone 2 is a rough draft of the entire book, and then 3 is that you're going to have someone review and edit the book. And then you're going to do rewrites. The trick to all of this is that you actually need to pull out your calendar while you do this so you can see what your timeline looks like and if it actually works. Then once you have your milestones, you're going to look at the next 13 weeks or so. There are 4 13-week periods in a year, and start figuring out what milestones fall into that quarter and the tasks that you're going to have to accomplish in order to reach those milestones. At this point, we're just breaking the big goal into smaller and smaller chunks until we have workable, manageable tasks that we can do, usually with no more than an hour or 2 at a time. Along the way, we're going to make sure that our goals are SMART. That means they're specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. Finally, as you work through the process, keep checking back in with yourself. Keep in mind the other aspects of your identity that you've identified. Does each goal you write down align with your vision and values? Do any of your roles have to change to make a goal happen? If your goals and your identity aren't closely related, what is that telling you? And will you have the inherent drive to accomplish it if it's not? I know for some of you this may seem like a lot, especially if you're not used to making a plan. But keep in mind that this has been studied many times before, and a plan is often the difference between your success and your failure, like 92% of the time. Your goals are important. So give them and you the best fighting chance you can with a plan.